Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. This video is about why are Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic better than anybody else on the tour, and there are some key words for their success and why they have been dominating this tennis game for the last 15 years. And the mainly important thing is of course their consistency. Because these guys are big stage players, they can perform week after week, day after day in the tournaments, and most of them, and one of the important things, they keep their level and they go deep in the biggest tournaments is because they peak at the right moment. And Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal has been the example of those words, and they are simply the best on the tour because they train like everybody else. Maybe they work a little bit harder. The important thing, still at their age now, they're starting to get older now, they still want to be there, they want to compete, they are experienced guys. With all this knowledge they have on the court, they put it on the court, and they can relax more than their opponents because they are so experienced and they can change their game if they want. Because they never, sometimes they are not under pressure. They only gets under pressure when they meet each other, and that's why they have been so good all these years. So they have their tactics, they know how to play the game, they have tennis minds. Of course, the world have seen many great players in the past, and we will probably see more in the futures, but these guys are something else, and that's because of they train well, they know exactly what to do, and they exactly know what it takes to compete on this level. So in their game they have barely any flaws. Novak is a super complete player, likewise with Rafa, even though he doesn't move as usual. When he used to be one of the fastest on the tour, he still is. The only player that I can think in the history of tennis that has been as quick as Nadal on court is Björn Borg. And then we have another player who played in the 80s that I really like to play. His game style was superb. He moved like a cat around the court, and his name was Miroslav Mečír. He was from Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia back in that time. But anyway, and Roger, we all know his strong parts of his game. We know even his weakness. His weakness is his return game, and sometimes his backhand. When it's working, is super. But his return has never been that super great in the whole career, and that is one of his Achilles heels in his game, I think. And these guys love the competition. They grow with the competition, they get stronger, they are not afraid of being on the big stage. And that's the difference between them and some of the talent and has disappointed through the years, because tennis have had many super talents with high expectation, but many of them have failed to deliver. And just to name some names, we have Richard Gasquet, who was in his young years, almost every tennis expert had him as a former #1 in the world. And even a guy like Benoit Paire, which makes me laugh when I see him today. He's a decent player, but not even close to winning a Grand Slam or Masters, to be honest. And then we have the old players like Marat Safin and Nalbandian. We have Monfils. We have the super high Dimitrov. We had Marcelo Rios. And this is the players that haven't delivered on a Grand Slam basis. I think just Safin have won a Grand Slam between these guys. But then we have the new generation like Sasha Zverev and Dominic Thiem. They have been also hyped, especially Zverev, but something is locking him, and he can't perform in Grand Slams. That's been pretty obvious because he's getting older also, and he can, if he continues like this, he will fall in the category of those lost generation players like Dimitrov, Berdych, and Kei Nishikori. We have plenty of those players, but not. These are players that everybody expected to be multiple Grand Slam winners. And is this because of the level they have on the court, or is it because of the big three that are too good for them? Actually, you can say a little bit both of them, because we have seen in Grand Slam sometimes a guy like Dimitrov and Sasha Zverev, they can't perform. There's something wrong with them when they play a Grand Slam, actually. Now I'm so angry, I forgot to put my words right. But anyway, Dimitrov had reached the semi-final at Australian Open. He did a superb performance in 2017 where he almost beat Nadal in that 5-set thriller in the semi-final. And that was one of those greatest matches of that year, actually. Maybe some say it was even better than the final, but it's up to you if you think that. And it was a superb match. I saw that match, and I can say it was one of the best matches I've ever seen in Australia. But anyway, today's new generation players like Tsitsipas, he still has time, and he is not super consistent, but he's okay. You can't expect too much from these players, because it's pretty hard to win a Grand Slam, and the new generation players are struggling in Grand Slam. We have seen that, and we have Borna Coric also, who is a super talented player, but this year he's not as good as last year. He has somehow he's managed to take a step back. And we have guys like Aliassime, who is still young. I think he's still 19 years old. He has the future ahead of him. And we have Shapovalov. But personally, I don't think Shapovalov is a future Grand Slam winner, because his return game is too bad, and he has not a super serve, and he's way too inconsistent. I've seen many of his matches. He can just disappear from out of nowhere for 30 minutes, and the match is pretty much over. So it's going to be interesting to see and follow Aliassime more, and I hope that Borna Coric can come through. We have these new Russian guys. They are still young. They can compete for Grand Slam maybe next year. Kachanov and Medvedev. I think Medvedev is a little bit more consistent than him. And we have these hyped guys like Deminaur, who I don't think will win a Grand Slam, to be honest. He's a decent player, but not in that caliber, Grand Slam caliber. And of course, we have the bad boy of tennis. You never know with him. If he can focus on tennis and play like he did in Washington, if he can take that game and still continue without distraction in Masters event and then eventually Grand Slam, then he will be very interesting to watch. But in Grand Slam, as you know, 7 matches, 2 weeks, it's hard to maintain that level for 2 weeks. And that's why these big three guys are so good. And why are they so good? Number one, they are consistent. They know and they do put one more ball on court and their opponent. That's why they are best. And they know which point that's gonna basically finish that rally. That's why they're so good. And they are good at moving their opponents from side to side in small steps. If you take a guy like Djokovic or Nadal, when they play baseline rallies, they always put the ball across the court. That gives them more time to think of the next step. For instance, Nadal puts, with his super topspin forehand, he mostly put the ball on his opponent's backhand side. That gives him more time to execute the points and come around with this super sharp forehand. And Novak does the same thing. From backhand to backhand or from forehand to forehand. Just to give him a little bit extra more time. And he doesn't have to move around the court as much. Because if Roger Federer is an expert to shrink the court to execute his points, Novak is the opposite. He makes the court bigger from him with his movement, with his game strategy. That's why he is so good. And of course, he's one of the best baseliners. But this is one component in his tennis game that is very important. Another thing, these guys are good to move their opponent up and down. For example, they make drop shots, they variate the game, they have to run to the net, and then they move them up and down from side to side. And that's also an important fact, why they are so good. And Federer, who has a different play style, if you compare his game style to Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal, he's super complete. He has all the trick shots in the book. He has the best eye coordination. He's always one step ahead. And he have all these different ground strokes. And he can surprise everybody because he's a good, decent volley player. He's an okay baseliner, but he is not top 15 if you put in the best baseline, if you just focus on baseline game. But he's super good because otherwise you haven't won 20 Grand Slam. It's simple as that. So Roger, he knows how to mix up shots, to put pressure on his opponent, to make his opponent uncomfortable, like Novak and Djokovic does from baseline. And that's why he has been one of the best the last 15 years and considered as the GOAT right now by many people. And the other thing is they can change the rhythm of the game. They take time from their opponents, make them feel under pressure, and they can accelerate. They can put in another gear when they play. And that's also an important key to be as successful as they have been. So these are some of the facts what makes them better. And the important thing, the mental toughness also is super important. And why? You can't go win 20, 18 or 16 Grand Slams if you're not mentally tough. And they are mentally tough on their own way. Let's see. Nadal's mental toughness is not to give his opponent a free ride, of opening, a break. His mental toughness is not to give you a chance and not come back from behind the 1 set or 2 sets down. Nadal isn't the player like that. He don't give you the opportunity. Because if you're going to beat Nadal, you have to do the best match of your life. He doesn't give you a point for free. He's the best player, point in and point out. Simple as that. The most consistent in that part of the area. And to beat him, you have to have a game style like Novak Djokovic, like a wall. You have to give him his own medicine, or like Robin Söderling did in the French Open 2009. Or you have to mix up shots, make him uncomfortable, make drop shots, make him uncomfortable like Federer has done. You have to have a game style like that to really beat Nadal. And Novak Djokovic, on the other hand, he's like a human wall. He's like a plastic man. He can fish up all the points that you give, from all different angles. It's pretty amazing to see him do that, because I have never seen another player do like this. The only one that comes to my mind, a guy who used to play before, he's now retired, He could fish up almost every point because of his quickness. And I might add him also into that list that I told you before, and that's Michael Chang. He could hit back the most amazing balls, most difficult points that you thought, how did this guy do this? Novak is like that, but much, much, much better. And he has a complete game, the whole package, and that's why he's the most complete player maybe in the history of tennis. And that's why it's hard to beat him. Because he also is like an underdog sometimes, especially when he has a crowd against him in US Open or Wimbledon. He has superb mentality, a Balkan mentality that gives him the thought that I want to show the world why I am the best. They think I'm like this, but I'm going to prove them wrong. And Novak wants to win. I have seen footage of when he's younger that he hates to lose matches. And that's one good element and one good thing if you want to be the best. You are not satisfied by coming second. And none of these guys are. They only compete to win. And then we have Roger Federer, who has surprised us with his prime, in his prime, after his prime, and some say his decline. But his decline is still capable of winning Grand Slams, perhaps. I'm not saying he's in decline, because if you reach Grand Slam finals, you're definitely not on a decline. That shows why he's so super amazing, this guy. And he is also mental toughness, because you can't compete in this tough sport for so many years if you're not mentally tough. Forget about that he lost his matches when he had match points in his own serve. It can happen, but it shouldn't happen. But otherwise, Roger Federer is super tough mentally. Don't get that wrong. Because otherwise he wouldn't have bounced back. And even when he didn't win slams for almost 5 years, he came back. That's also mental toughness. He knew that he was there. He was there, but it wasn't enough. Because Djokovic was better, Nadal was better, and he has unfortunately run with early exits in the Grand Slam. Yes, that could happen to any tennis player, even if your name is Roger Federer. And sometimes I think people are expecting too much from him. But he knows that. He's playing more relaxed than ever. He takes one tournament at the moment, and he knows. He's having fun. These three guys are still having fun when they play. And of course, they have their fair share of injuries. Nadal, he's, of course, as you know, Novak with his elbow injury, and Roger with his back pain for a couple of months that kept him away from playing tennis a couple of months since Wimbledon 2016 to his brave and unexpected victory at Melbourne, Australian Open. These guys are humans, but they are just willing to put more effort, more blood, more sweat than the other. And of course, they have the toughness, and they know and want to be there. They want to be in the Grand Slam finals. They want to be on the big stages. And that's why they are so freaking good. I don't know what more to add in this discussion or in this video. But maybe you have something to say. Maybe something I forgot. But to be honest, these three guys, we will never see a competition like this before. Because they raise the bar. They make each other better. Play with the thought, if Rafa didn't come up on the tour, or Novak, how many Grand Slam do you think Federer would have won? Or the opposite. So this guy have made a couple of generation of players, 2 or 3 at least, on hold. And some of them actually hasn't been that good enough, to be honest. I wish that a player like Stan Wawrinka or Juan Del Potro, who has tons of injury, would have not be that. And maybe I think that Del Potro could have one or two more majors, Grand Slam titles, if haven't been that injury plague that has been. And Wawrinka, unfortunately, when he has his high level, he's almost unbeatable. But the problem with him is he's very inconsistent. And even his coach, Magnus Norman, formerly coach Magnus Norman, told that I wish that he could be as consistent as Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. And they just say everything about this. And then we have some player like Andy Murray, he was consistent. But he had Novak or Rafa or Federer in the finals to compete with. So I give him that excuse. That's an excuse, because I think he has won 2 or 3 Grand Slams anyway. So he has done he has done a solid career so far in his single, and he can be satisfied. So my dear friends, that was all for today. Thanks, and please subscribe or leave a comment. Bye bye. Thanks for now.